It's going to be a big tell there, right? It's crazy to me. I've been blown away by this in lots of ways over the last couple of years, but how bad the Israeli PR game is. And that it's almost like they were just so accustomed to the old way of doing things.
They're so accustomed to people being terrified of being labeled anti-Semitic.
Yeah, someone criticizes you, you label them as a bigot, and you destroy their lives, and that works. It doesn't work anymore.
Minor jokes.
Yeah. Well, and there's I think it's so I've been using this analogy or comparison lately, and I think if you remember when Joe Biden had that disastrous debate with Donald Trump, and everybody, the debate opens and everybody watching it knows this is over. Right. Joe Biden is done. I mean, it was so bad, but it's not just that it was so bad. I mean, it's before the debate, there's Rachel Maddow at a desk with a bunch of people. We're now going to the first presidential debate. Joe Biden's going to kick his ass. They were already talking about how it was, remember the term deep fakes? That they came up with, where it's or cheap fakes. I'm sorry,
was it cheap fakes?
It's not a deep fake, but it's kind of like a deep fake. See, they're showing you a real video of Joe Biden being senile, but see, that's just as fake as a deep fake because they didn't include the context or something like that. That was the talking point that right before we go into the debate. The debate cuts; it goes back to the same panel, and they go, "We got to find a new candidate." They acknowledged that, and part of the reason why we all knew it was over in that debate was it wasn't just how bad the debate was. It was that now you have to admit this. You were pretending this thing didn't exist. Now you got to admit it exists. And once you admit it exists, there's now a microscope on Joe Biden like there never was before. So tomorrow when he's doing an interview and he mixes up a name, that may not have been such a big deal 2 days ago, but after that debate performance, when he mixes up another name, now you're like, look, there it is again. He's senile. Everything became amplified after that point. And I think...
Don't you think they set him up?
Yes, but sure, that's a whole separate issue, but yes, I do think they set him up. But I think a similar thing has happened with Israel, where now everyone's looking at it, and everyone's watching, and everyone's going, wait, what the hell is going on here?
That's a great analogy.
What is this? Yeah. So wait, a pedophile can just go flee to Israel? How many other pedophiles have gone and fled to Israel?
Quite a few.
And now it's like, oh my God, they've opened Pandora's box, and there's just, I think, no way to put this back in because it's too weird. It's too weird to not notice. And that doesn't mean you have to jump to the conclusion of you have to hate Jewish people or something like that. I'm not advocating anything like that. But you do kind of have to question the relationship between DC and Tel Aviv and what is going on here? Because this is so utterly bizarre. It's so crazy to see the American people are against what Israel's doing to Gaza. It obviously hurts it hurts our, as they use in the preamble to the Constitution. I like that phrase, domestic tranquility, right? This is destroying our domestic tranquility. We got protests. We got people fighting over this stuff. We're pissing off the Muslim world again, which we've already had to deal with, them hating our guts. Now
we're deporting students.
We're deporting legal residents because they had the wrong opinion. This is all, and it's impossible to not look at this and go hey, what's going on here? And they don't have any answer for that. And the other thing, too, is that it's just, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of people now trying to jump off of the sinking ship. A lot of people who are even supporters of Israel who are kind of going I think they are going a little too far on this one. And they're trying, because it's just, you can see the writing on the wall all over the place, man. You're going to be looked at. This is going to be the period. And it's not even supporting the war in Iraq. It's much worse than that, dude. You're just supporting this destruction of these. They just launched another offensive on Gaza City the other day. They're bombing rubble. It's just it's biblical levels of evil. And, we're sitting here, even as we're having this conversation now, I know a few, I remember coming on the podcast a couple years ago, and when this conflict first started, and then when it would go, and it was almost I was coming on to be look, let me present the argument for why we shouldn't support what Israel's doing here, and let me try to present the other side of the debate. I feel now the debate's over. I don't even think there's much of a debate to be had. I'll keep doing them if somebody wants to come debate about the issue. But what are we talking about here? Dude, South Africa brought a genocide case to the International Court of Justice. And the International Court of Justice ruled that what Israel was doing to Gaza was plausibly a genocide. 21 months ago, 21 months ago, they said this was plausibly a genocide. And the thing's gone on the entire time since then. There was a huge Haaretz piece a couple months ago about, because we've seen so many examples of this, but they had IDF soldiers off the record, and at least one on the record, saying that they were given orders to fire live rounds into the crowds of desperate people trying to get food, who have literally been just having starvation throughout Gaza. I don't know if you saw this, dude. I mean, I actually found this hilarious, but I'm a comedian who has a real twisted, dark sense of humor. But the Free Press, Barry Weiss's publication, ran a piece debunking the starvation in Gaza. And one of the examples, I'm not making this up, you go look at this. I'm very close to exactly accurate on this. One of the examples they picked was a kid who was starving to death, and their attempt at debunking it was that actually this kid had another major issue when an Israeli bomb cracked his skull. So that's your defense. That yes, he starved to death, but it was also, with these other complications. This was the big one where the New York Times had that big picture of the starving baby, and then they made a big thing out of being no, but he had other medical, problems too. And then the mother had said, the mother said that the doctors told her that the reason they had other medical problems is because she was malnourished during pregnancy. It's okay, so yes, you are right, Israel defenders. The kids starving to death are the ones who have other complications. That's always who dies first in famines. I don't know what victory you think this is. But so since this point, since the International Court of Justice ruled it was plausibly a genocide, the 21 months up to today, since then, I know at least to Ehud Olmert and Ehud Barak, both former prime ministers of Israel, have come out and said Netanyahu's committing war crimes in Gaza. Now, they didn't call it a genocide, but they called it war crimes. So that's where your debate is at this point. Where are we between genocide and war crimes? What area in there does this occupy? But how the fuck do you defend any of that, dude?